now by square root. Take the square root of the left-hand side is x plus 6. Take the square root of the right-hand side and we get positive and negative square root of 6. So now, to get x by itself, x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 6. So completing the square, then we get the two binomials are going to be exactly the same, and then we can solve it by square root. Now again, this method might be a little bit more difficult for you. Doesn't always work real well. Why? Because sometimes the coefficient of the linear term is not even. If it's 3, you've got to take 3/2 squared and add it to both sides. Yuck. So this method, although it is a method for solving square root, is probably not one you're going to use very often. This one works all of the time. So you're going to solve by the quadratic formula. So if factoring doesn't work, if square root doesn't work, if completing the square doesn't work, well, the quadratic formula always works. So you have to know what the formula is. It's x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now where do the a, b, and c come from? A is the coefficient of the quadratic term, b is the coefficient of the linear term, and c is the constant. It's writing the quadratic equation in standard form. So let's take a problem. 6x squared equals 7x plus 5. It is not in standard form. I need to get this equal to 0. So I'm going to write 6 squared, subtract 7x, subtract 5 equals 0. So now a is equal to 6, b is equal to negative 7, c is equal to negative 5 in the formula. So I have x is equal to negative 7 plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times a, which is 6, times c, which is negative 5, and the entire quantity there is over 2a, or 2 times 6. Simplifying. X is equal to negative 7 is 7 plus or minus the square root of. Negative 7 squared is 49. A negative times a positive times a negative is a positive. 4 times 6 times 5 is 120 over 2 times 6 is 12. Keep simplifying. X is equal to 7 plus or minus the square root of 169 over 12. So I'm getting x is equal to plus or minus 13, 7 plus, equals 7 plus or minus the square root of 169 is 13 over 12. That gives me two solutions. 7 plus 13, which is 20 over 12, that reduces to 5/3. The other solution is 7 minus 13, or negative 6 over 12, which is equal to negative 1/2. So I'm breaking it down into 7 plus 13 is 20 over 12, which reduces to 5/3. 7 minus 16 is negative 6 over 12, or negative 1/2. Okay, questions on that? Yeah.
Are we expected to memorize the quadratic formula?
Absolutely. If you're going to use it, I'm not going to give it to you. So you need to memorize the quadratic formula. Because there are some problems that are not factorable. They don't lend themselves very well to square root, and completing the square will work, but maybe it's very cumbersome. The quadratic formula always works. Okay? Yes.
So for our exams, we're not gonna have a calculator.
You are not.
So like with like larger square roots, are you gonna practice like a way to do them? Because I wouldn't have known that.
Okay? Perhaps Maria can help you. If I have time, I would break it down into the product of two numbers where one of them is a perfect square. Or if it was, for example, 7, I'd have 7 plus or minus the square root is 7 over 12.
Yeah, it's
And I would leave it. But if it was, at least take it as far as you can go on to another problem, come back if you have time. I will try to find some time to work on breaking down larger numbers underneath the radical, or I will try on a quiz to keep the numbers smaller. Easier for you to work on. Okay? All right, let's take one other problem. And, all right, maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2, I'm not sure. Time-wise, we don't have a lot of time. I don't want to get hung up on one particular section. Okay, solve by any method. So you could expand it, you could use the quadratic formula, you could see if it's factorable, or this problem lends itself very well to adding 16 to both sides and doing it by square root. What looks easiest as you look at a problem? And if you know all the methods, then you have more tricks in your bag of tricks than if you only know one way to do it. However, the quadratic formula always works. So I'm not going to tell you do it by this method or do it by that method. You can do it by any method. So the square root of the left-hand side, the square root of the right-hand side, and then we have 3x minus 2 is equal to positive 4. 3x minus 2 equals negative 4. Adding 2 and dividing by 3. Adding 2 and divide by 3. So we get the 2 solutions. Yeah. I mean, this was wrong. Sorry. This is 2. Saw it too. Okay. All right. And then you could always go back, substitute in, and check to make sure that your answer's right, and you would have caught the mistake that